Picture a single, audacious corporate decision, one high-stakes gamble that could redefine the future of a pharmaceutical titan and, in the process, impact the lives of hundreds of millions across the globe. This is not just a conventional boardroom drama. This is a tale that weaves together hope, risk, scientific vision, and the ceaseless drive for human progress. Merck, a company whose heritage spans more than 130 years, now finds itself on the precipice of one of the largest, boldest bets in its long and storied existence. The company is preparing to invest an eye-watering $10 billion in a biotechnology firm that, until recently, was only familiar to insiders and specialists, Verona Pharma. Why would Merck, with all its resources and expertise, wager so much on a relatively unknown player? What forces are compelling this colossal move? And what could this mean for patients, for the future of medicine, and for the very structure of the global pharmaceutical industry? To answer these questions, we must delve deep into the context, the science, the risks, and the enormous stakes at play in this transformative acquisition. Let us begin with Merck, a name that has become synonymous with life-saving innovations and blockbuster drugs. Merck's ascent to the upper echelons of the pharmaceutical world has been powered in large part by a single, extraordinary molecule, Keytruda. This immunotherapy drug did not just change the game in oncology. It redefined what was possible for patients with cancer. Keytruda, through harnessing the body's own immune system, has extended and saved countless lives. But it has also been a commercial juggernaut, generating close to $24 billion in sales just last year. To put that into perspective, that is more revenue in a single year than the gross domestic product of dozens of small nations. Keytruda's runaway success has enabled Merck to reinvest in research, support global health initiatives, and pursue ambitious acquisitions across the biopharmaceutical landscape. Yet, in the world of medicine, no triumph lasts forever. The very lifeblood of the pharmaceutical business, the patent system, is both a powerful shield and an unforgiving clock. Patents provide exclusive rights for a period, allowing companies to reap the rewards of their innovation. But when patents expire, the so-called patent cliff arrives. Competitors can enter the market with generic versions, often at a fraction of the price. This can lead to a catastrophic fall in revenues. For Merck, the threat is looming. Keytruda's foundational patents are set to begin expiring in the year 2028. In practical terms, this could mean a loss of billions of dollars in revenue almost overnight. History provides sobering examples. When Pfizer's iconic cholesterol drug Lipitor lost patent protection in 2011, the company saw more than $10 billion in annual sales vanish almost instantly. The consequences were severe: layoffs, research cutbacks, and urgent efforts to identify the next blockbuster. Merck's leadership is acutely aware of this impending challenge. Over the past decade, the company has been racing against time, seeking to diversify its portfolio and reduce its reliance on Keytruda. This has meant pouring billions into research across oncology, cardiology, immunology, and beyond. Merck has also aggressively pursued acquisitions and strategic partnerships, trying to stay one step ahead of the patent cliff. But in an industry where developing a new drug can take more than a decade and cost over $2 billion, the clock is always ticking. Enter Verona Pharma, a company that, while small by global standards, is on the cusp of changing the narrative in respiratory medicine. Verona's mission targets one of the world's most urgent but overlooked health crises: chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD. COPD is a progressive, debilitating lung condition that affects more than 300 million people worldwide. It is the third leading cause of death globally, trailing only heart disease and stroke. Every year, COPD claims the lives of more than 3 million people, and the economic burden to health systems exceeds $34 billion annually, a figure projected to rise sharply as populations age and pollution worsens. COPD's impact is not just measured in statistics. It robs people of their breath, their mobility, and often, their independence. Patients can spend their final years in and out of hospitals, tethered to oxygen tanks, struggling with every breath. Despite its prevalence and severity, COPD has been a therapeutic desert for decades. Standard treatments have revolved around inhaled steroids and bronchodilators, which can help, but rarely provide lasting or profound relief. Many patients continue to suffer from chronic breathlessness, frequent exacerbations, and a deteriorating quality of life. Into this challenging landscape steps Verona's Ohtuvayre, a potential game-changer. Unlike traditional inhaled therapies, Ohtuvayre is a novel, oral medication that combines two distinct mechanisms: bronchodilation, to open constricted airways, and non-steroidal anti-inflammation to reduce the underlying inflammation that drives COPD progression. This dual-action approach is truly innovative. In landmark clinical studies known as ENHANCE1 and ENHANCE2, Ohtuvayre demonstrated statistically significant improvements in lung function, symptom relief, and quality of life, outperforming many existing therapies. The data was robust enough to catch the attention of not only scientists and doctors, but also investors and industry leaders. The market's response has been swift and emphatic. Within just the first quarter after its launch, Ohtuvayre filled more than 25,000 prescriptions and generated over $76 million in revenue, a record-shattering debut in the field of respiratory medicine. Andrew Tsai, a leading analyst at Jefferies, called it the strongest COPD launch in history, projecting that Ohtuvayre could reach peak annual sales of $4 billion by the mid-2030s. To understand the magnitude, if Ohtuvayre achieves these projections, it would be among the top respiratory drugs globally, rivaling established blockbusters like GlaxoSmithKline's Trelegy Ellipta and AstraZeneca's Symbicort. But why is Merck willing to pay a 23% premium over Verona's already surging share price? The answer lies in the immense market opportunity and the urgent need for innovation. The global COPD treatment market is projected to surpass $34 billion by the year 2034, driven by demographic shifts, increasing urbanization, rising rates of smoking, and worsening air quality in many parts of the world. The burden of COPD is not just medical, it is social and economic, affecting families, communities, and healthcare systems. Merck is not the only giant with its eyes on this space. GlaxoSmithKline, with its blockbuster Trelegy Ellipta, and AstraZeneca, with a growing respiratory portfolio, are locked in fierce competition to dominate the next era of lung disease treatment. For Merck, acquiring Verona is not simply about adding one more drug to its pipeline. It is about securing a strategic position in a high-growth, high-need therapeutic area. As Robert Davis, Merck's CEO, has stated, "This acquisition reflects our commitment to delivering innovative treatments and our science-led business development strategy." The company sees Ohtuvayre not only as a commercial opportunity, but as a platform technology that could be applied to related conditions, such as non-cystic fibrosis, bronchiectasis, a chronic lung disease for which Ohtuvayre is already being studied in clinical trials. However, as with all high-reward bets, the risks are significant. Ohtuvayre is still new to the market, and its long-term safety profile is under close observation. Regulatory agencies have flagged concerns about potential psychiatric side effects, including anxiety, depression, and even suicidal ideation. These warnings are not new to the pharmaceutical industry, but they are always treated with utmost seriousness. The tragic story of Vioxx, another Merck product withdrawn in 2004 after being linked to increased cardiovascular risks, serves as a sobering reminder. For Ohtuvayre to anchor Merck's respiratory strategy, it must prove not only highly effective, but also safe across diverse, real-world patient populations. The company has pledged to conduct large-scale post-marketing surveillance and work closely with healthcare professionals to monitor for adverse events. Integration brings its own set of challenges. The history of pharmaceutical mergers is littered with cautionary tales of culture clashes, misaligned incentives, and logistical hurdles. Combining Merck's vast global infrastructure with Verona's agile, science-driven approach will require careful planning and sensitive management. Any misstep in aligning research teams, streamlining supply chains, or integrating regulatory processes could slow Ohtuvayre's rollout and blunt its commercial potential. Meanwhile, competitors are not standing idle. Both GlaxoSmithKline and AstraZeneca are investing heavily in next-generation respiratory therapies, and a new wave of biotech startups is bringing fresh ideas and disruptive technologies into the space. The race is on, and Merck must execute flawlessly if it hopes to maintain its edge. For investors, the stakes could hardly be higher. Can Ohtuvayre deliver on the bullish projections of $4 billion in peak annual sales? Will it meaningfully offset the looming revenue gap when Keytruda faces generic competition? Or is Merck, as some skeptics suggest, merely buying time with a high-profile acquisition that may not pay off? James Harlow of Novare Capital Management calls the deal a positive step for Merck amid concerns over Keytruda's looming patent cliff, providing a new and potentially durable revenue stream. Yet others, like Evan Seigerman of BMO Capital Markets, caution that more is needed to assure investors of a smooth revenue transition after Keytruda expiry. The acquisition is, in many ways, a test of Merck's strategic foresight and its ability to execute in an increasingly complex, competitive market. Zooming out, the implications of this deal ripple far beyond the balance sheets of two companies. The global pharmaceutical industry is in the midst of a seismic transformation, driven by scientific breakthroughs, demographic trends, and mounting expectations from patients, regulators, and payers. The Merck Verona acquisition is emblematic of a new era, one defined by agility, boldness, and the willingness to make billion-dollar bets on emerging science. In this landscape, the winners will be those who can anticipate shifts, invest early, and adapt rapidly to new information. For patients and healthcare providers, Ohtuvayre's rise represents a beacon of hope, but also a reminder of the need for vigilance. For millions living with chronic lung disease, a new, effective oral therapy could mean fewer hospital visits, improved daily functioning, and a renewed sense of independence. The initial prescription numbers, over 25,000 in the first 90 days, indicate that clinicians and patients are eager for new options. But as with any medical breakthrough, the story is just beginning. Patients must be closely monitored for potential side effects, families must be educated on both the benefits and the risks, and the medical community must remain committed to evidence-based practice. History teaches us that every leap forward in medicine comes with new responsibilities and new challenges. The industry-wide repercussions of Merck's move are already becoming apparent. Analysts predict that this blockbuster acquisition will ignite a new wave of consolidation across the biopharmaceutical sector, particularly among companies with promising data in respiratory and inflammatory diseases. Smaller biotechs may find themselves acquisition targets, as larger players scramble to secure their pipelines before the next wave of patent expirations. For Verona, this deal is the culmination of years of scientific rigor, resilience, and bold risk-taking. David Zaccardelli, CEO of Verona Pharma, emphasized that Merck's commercial footprint will help accelerate Ohtuvayre's potential to reach more patients, maximizing its impact. But what if the gamble does not pay off? The pharmaceutical landscape is littered with high-profile failures. Consider aducanumab, once hailed as a revolutionary Alzheimer's treatment, which ultimately faced regulatory controversy and lackluster commercial results. Even the most promising therapies can stumble due to unforeseen side effects, regulatory hurdles, or changing standards of care. For Merck, the $10 billion question is whether Ohtuvayre can sustain its early momentum, expand into new indications, and withstand both regulatory scrutiny and competitive pressure over the long haul. Looking forward, multiple scenarios are possible. In the most optimistic case, Ohtuvayre not only lives up to its clinical promise, but becomes the cornerstone of Merck's respiratory franchise, driving growth for the next decade or more. Merck could leverage its global reach, its relationships with payers, and its expertise in large-scale commercialization to expand Ohtuvayre's use into related conditions, capturing an even larger share of a respiratory market projected to exceed $35 billion by 2034. Such a scenario would not only cushion the blow from Keytruda's patent expiration, but also reinforce Merck's reputation as an innovator at the forefront of medicine. Alternatively, setbacks could arise. If new safety concerns emerge, or if rivals launch superior therapies, Ohtuvayre could find its growth stunted. Regulatory delays, reimbursement battles, or integration missteps could erode the drug's potential. In such a scenario, Merck might be forced to pursue additional acquisitions or pivot to other therapeutic areas, all while managing investor expectations and sustaining its research pipeline. The company's recent acquisition of Prometheus Biosciences in 2023, valued at more than $10 billion, demonstrates that Merck is no stranger to placing big bets on emerging science. The question is whether these investments will translate into sustainable, long-term value. For investors and industry observers, the Merck-Verona deal offers important lessons. First, it highlights the necessity of strategic portfolio diversification. Relying on a single blockbuster is a perilous strategy, especially as the pace of scientific discovery accelerates and the window of patent exclusivity narrows. Astute investors will be watching not just for headline sales numbers, but for signals about long-term safety, regulatory progress, and the adoption of Ohtuvayre in new geographies and indications. Second, the deal underscores the growing importance of data-driven decision-making. Companies that can rapidly analyze clinical trial data, real-world evidence, and market trends will have a decisive competitive edge in the coming years. For healthcare professionals, Ohtuvayre's dual mechanism of action introduces a new paradigm in the management of chronic lung disease. By targeting both airway constriction and underlying inflammation, the drug offers a more comprehensive approach to COPD, a disease notorious for its complexity and variability. This could pave the way for personalized medicine strategies, tailored combination therapies, and the development of new standards of care. But as always, the promise of innovation must be balanced with rigorous post-market monitoring, ongoing research, and cross-disciplinary collaboration among physicians, pharmacists, and patient advocates. On a societal level, this acquisition serves as a powerful reminder that the future of medicine will be shaped as much by business strategy as by laboratory breakthroughs. The pharmaceutical industry is not just about molecules and mechanisms, it is about anticipating global trends, managing risk, and aligning scientific discovery with unmet clinical needs. With healthcare costs rising, populations aging, and the specter of new pandemics always present, the stakes have never been higher. The companies that thrive will be those that invest early, adapt quickly, and remain committed to both innovation and patient safety. There is also a fascinating and perhaps underappreciated backstory to Ohtuvayre's discovery. The molecule at the heart of this novel therapy was initially passed over by several major pharmaceutical companies, who deemed it too risky or too similar to existing treatments to justify further investment. It was Verona, a small, nimble team with limited capital, that recognized its potential and pushed through the obstacles. In 2020, Verona secured $30 million in critical funding, enabling the company to advance Ohtuvayre through late-stage clinical trials. This underdog story is a testament to the power of perseverance and the importance of taking calculated risks in pursuit of transformative breakthroughs. From a regulatory perspective, the Ohtuvayre story is also a case study in the evolving landscape of drug approval and post-market surveillance. Global regulators, including the U.S. Food and Drug Administration and the European Medicines Agency, are increasingly demanding robust data on not just efficacy, but also long-term safety, cost-effectiveness, and real-world outcomes. Merck will need to navigate these requirements carefully, ensuring that Ohtuvayre meets or exceeds expectations in every market where it is launched. This will require ongoing investment in clinical research, patient registries, and collaboration with academic centers to monitor outcomes over years, not just months. The broader impact of the Merck-Verona deal could extend to medical education and public health policy. As Ohtuvayre becomes more widely available, guidelines for COPD management may need to be updated, and healthcare professionals will require training on its appropriate use, monitoring, and risk mitigation. Patient advocacy groups, insurers, and public health agencies will also play crucial roles in shaping access, affordability, and awareness. The success of Ohtuvayre could inspire renewed investment in respiratory research, stimulating innovation across related fields such as asthma, pulmonary fibrosis, and infectious diseases affecting the lungs. So what does all of this mean for you, the engaged viewer, the investor seeking insight, the patient yearning for better options, or the healthcare professional at the front lines of care? First, it is a vivid demonstration of the speed and complexity of change in global pharmaceuticals. The Merck-Verona deal is a masterclass in strategic risk-taking, vision, and the relentless pursuit of progress. It illustrates how the future of medicine will be shaped by those willing to make bold, informed bets on science, and who have the discipline to see them through. Second, it is a call for continued vigilance and engagement. As new therapies emerge, it is incumbent upon all stakeholders, patients, providers, regulators, and investors, to remain alert to both the promise and the pitfalls. The story of Ohtuvayre is still unfolding. Early results are impressive, but the ultimate verdict will depend on ongoing research, real-world experience, and a collective commitment to transparency, safety, and patient-centered care. Finally, it is an invitation to stay curious, to watch, to learn, and to participate. The coming decade will be one of profound transformation in healthcare, where the boundaries between science, technology, business, and society are increasingly blurred. Will Merck's $10 billion wager on Verona and Ohtuvayre be remembered as a masterstroke of vision, a cautionary tale of overreach, or as something in between? The answer will hinge on clinical outcomes, regulatory developments, market dynamics, and, perhaps most importantly, on the courage and wisdom of those willing to invest in the future. If you want to stay informed about the front lines of global healthcare innovation and the billion-dollar decisions shaping our world, be sure to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments below. What is your view? Will Merck's bold move redefine the future of respiratory medicine? Or is it a high-risk play that could backfire? We want to hear from you. Stay tuned for more in-depth exploration.